So, hi everybody, this is Gail from Extinction Rebellion in the UK. We're using this video because something's gone wrong with the technology today. I'm one of the co-founders of Extinction Rebellion, and just sending you enormous amounts of love from the UK. I don't really know how to put into words what it's been like for us and our feelings watching what's been happening. For you guys with the fires, I just want to send so much love and support and sharing that grief of these times, the reality of these times. So lots of love from all the folks in the UK. Jane sent us some questions, and I'll go through them relatively quickly because I think listening to a video recording only has so much interest in it. By the way, I think Jane Morton's wonderful. We sort of accidentally stumbled on what she termed emergency mode messaging for the environmental movement. And so her video about that has been a real inspiration to us, and actually think we need to do a lot more, especially this year, about holding the vision that change is possible. That's part of the emergency mode messaging. So Jane was asking about Rising Up. I mean, the story that many people have heard, and again it's like my personal perspective of it, was that I'd known that mass civil disobedience was something that was going to be needed to move a destructive society forwards. And I've been trying to organise it for many years, so I went on a retreat, really in a spiritual way, to kind of pray for something to shift in me and to find the people to work with. I tried quite a few other things. I tried to start a mass tax disobedience. I've been up to all sorts over the years, and through that I met Roger Hallam, and not long after that we met Simon. We got involved with Simon Bramwell, and we did work over the years with Stu Basden, Claire Farrell. There's lots of people anyway, but it came together and we just tested things out as part of Rising Up. And I think the thing that held us together was this belief that something big had to happen. And I guess, thinking about it, none of us probably thought it was going to happen, and it was amazing when it did. And I think it was a mixture of a few things, really. I guess one was welcoming grief, that people needed that permission in some ways. We all did. There was something shifting. The summer of 2018 had some really appalling weather, some frightening things happening. It had the IPCC report. There was a lot more focus then. Greta Thunberg was getting going with Fridays for the Future, and she came to our launch event in the UK in the October 2018. And yeah, we did, we'd had trainings, we'd done a lot of reading and studying about how to build social movements. And I think that's one of the reasons why it grew so fast. I mean, George Monbiot wrote an article that got some attention, but we'd been building quite slowly through Rising Up, so I guess we had quite a lot of seeds through the UK. I mean, some very specific techniques. There's a lot of hard work goes into this stuff, right? So one of the things was that every time somebody liked the Facebook page, like literally somebody would message them and say, can we come to your community and give a talk? I think one of the first talks I gave was in Birmingham, and 3 people showed up. We just did it. Whoever came, we did it, So, and then we got to a stage where 150 people all come. So Jane's asking me about the April rebellion with the pink boats and the red rebels and so on. And was that just a few brilliant people? I mean, there's some really creative types. I'm a bit of a nerd myself. Roger's a nerd, I would say. So there's something here about when the artists get involved. I said when the artists are involved, that's when we'll know we mean business, and we will mean business. And it was a bit of a honeymoon period, actually, in April 2019. I mean, it was so sunny, there was so much community on the streets of London, and we did get away with a lot with pulling boats on the streets. I call that the big pink vagina boat. I think, being decentralised, that you can do anything in the name of XR if you agree with our principles and values. It gave people that impetus to come together and do something in a shared way. There's lots of different perspectives in XR, and I think there's quite a lot of room for different cultural expressions and so on. So asking about October Rebellion, I mean, I see these things in quite a spiritual way, actually. I mean, again, it's my way and it won't be everybody's perspective, but we had our honeymoon period, and bearing in mind the Occupy movement, according to Micah White, who was just over as one of the creators of that movement, said it only lasted a couple of months. We've been going nearly 18 months. Sorry, I don't know what's going off there, neighbours banging. So we went into the winter of October. I don't think we fully rested over the summer. There was, trying to figure out how to make decisions as a movement has been tricky. So there's lots that we've been trying to put in place, and then it's in the business world it's called chaotic practice, chaos and order, and you've got to get the balance right. There's something like an emergent fractal when you get the structure right and the flow of resources. So you've got to have 5 systems working well for decentralised organising to happen well. So you've got to have good decision making processes, good flow of resources, good information flow, good conflict resilience systems, and feedback and learning, and all within a healthy regenerative culture. And we're human beings, we just don't know how to do this stuff. And to me, like, how we rebel is as important, if not more so, than the rebellion, because I personally believe that we're heading for mayhem, that this civilisation's likely to collapse, and the more that we've worked out how we work together and working together in a good way is so worth it. So it's like the cul-de-sacs we end up in, the fights we end up in, it's difficult, isn't it? If you're facing that, I'm sure you are, different stuff. Well, hang on to each other is my advice, because we need each other. We've got to get through this and figure it out. Of course, if it's more trouble than it's worth when you're struggling and suffering, I mean, I don't believe in pushing masochism, but it's been difficult in October. And part of also what's going off is that there's a concerted attack, is the way I'd say it, on Extinction Rebellion. As Gandhi said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they attack you, then you win. And there was a report about some of us and about rising up, and it was positioning us in a specific way, and it was really a landscape of how to try to undermine us. And it's a compliment, actually. It means we're doing something right and people are shaken. So, yeah, again, it's only ever personal perspective, and it felt like a dark winter and some, confusion about how to move forward and how to co-create a strategy. And it was about, just a week or so ago that we passed the UK's strategy in what we call our anchor circle, and I took it there, having gone through a process with a group, and it was an imperfect process, but I'm really glad we did it. And I stepped outside this house where I'd been, in my boyfriend's house in London, into the sunshine, into the spring, and the spring flowers were out, and I thought, we've come through something. It's how I feel about it. So I feel really optimistic. I'm so excited about the UK's strategy. And it's basically, the first bit of the year is focusing on local issues and local mobilising. We're using some mass mobilisation techniques that came from Bernie Sanders' campaign. Be a focus on the fact that you cannot pretend that you're telling the truth in the UK when they've just given the go-ahead to something called HS2, a high-speed train, which probably sounds great, but actually it's going to plough through 108 woodlands and be the biggest deforestation in the UK since the World War One. It's going to affect 700 nature reserves, and its purpose is to link airports and enable airport expansion, aviation expansion. It's like an aviation shuttle service. We want to see infrastructure investment in public transport, and that's not it. So then the next bit is from that is the May that we're going to be back on the streets in London, And in our view, you can't keep... We built the strategy, but by the way, by looking at lots of data, lots of feedback, debriefs and so on, and surveys and all that kind of thing. It's clear that there's a lot of potential rebels in the UK that are ready into what we're doing, know us, like us, and we could mobilise them if we can reach them with these techniques. So the May rebellion, as in, I mean, we're always in rebellion, right, but the May focused time when we work in a mass action is going to be focused on systemic issues. So it's saying, like, why hasn't this thing changed? Everyone knows we're in an emergency in Davos. It was all the elites were all talking about the emergency, like pretty much all agreed apart from a few nutters that we're in an emergency and the plan is to plant some trees. Like, cool, but that's not it, that's not going to cut it. So the system can't make the decision because it's like a sort of there are folks in the media, and we've got the shared love, I'm sure, of News International and how they talk about this stuff or don't. So I'm hoping there'll be some, I believe there's going to be some joint organising to beautifully and peacefully have a word with Mr. Murdoch to say it's not okay to spread climate denial. So then there's systemic issues in our democracy and systemic issues with the economy. This is not about being anti anything or pro something else. It's about saying there's clearly some problems, like the economy acts like a form of causes cancer. It causes growth for the sake of growth is the logic of cancer. So, you know, if the heart are investors pumping blood down the financial pipelines to cancerous growths, and normally your body would have an immune system which would prevent that, and the immune system of the economic system is supposed to be the accountancy firms, the legal firms, regulations, trade laws and agreements and so on. It actually supports the metastasis of the cancer, that setup. If you know anything about secrecy jurisdictions and the lack of standards around reporting climate risk, and there's a lot of inherent issues in the economy. So it doesn't really matter where you are on the spectrum of economic thinking. I think there's a general consensus there's some deep problems. So our really big focus this year is the energy of it is about being the change we want to see, which is why, again, getting clear on how we rebel is so important, and bringing that through in a beautiful way, and also, you know, practicing at the grassroots level, people's assemblies, new democratic forms. And the most exciting bit for me is that we want to enable in some way a global citizens' assembly which would look at the systemic issues in the economy, in the global democracy, and would be a rewiring of humanity. It would have what's called a multi-stakeholder panel, so it would have people that have very specific interests. It might be the chairman of BP, might be lots of economists, but it would be made up of global citizens through a sortition process, and we're working with some real experts on how to make that happen. So it'd be mostly non-white people, racially marginalised folks. It's a dream to make that happen. Anyway, it wouldn't be run by XR, hopefully for obvious reasons, but there were people that we're talking to that could help that to happen. So that's super exciting, because although the COP is being run out of the UK, you know, I think there's lots of beautiful, brilliant people working the COP, and it's not working as a process, so something else has got to be tried. So anyway, look, that's all I'm going to say for now. I wish you all well. I love you all. I think we can do this. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think we could do it. I believe in humanity. I believe in our ability to innovate. I think we've come through a dark winter, and on so many levels. And when it's feeling hard, check out what's happening for you. What do you need to look at? What do you need to shift? I take stuff to a therapist sometimes. I'm like, okay, this is up for me now. Do that. That's what we say with the regenerative culture, do the inner work. We're going to, in the UK, have a big focus on leadership and power and privilege, and what we mean by that. I actually wrote most of those principles and values, and I love them, and I think the number 8 is not clear. We need to get clear on it. how we do that work. So there's stuff to come, and look, what can you do other than do your best in these times? Do it with good heart, do it with good intention, do it with non-attachment is healthy, and do it with humility. Lots of love.